All right, good morning. Today is Thursday, the 19th of March, and currently all students are at home. So I'm hoping that you are picking this up. And sorry, as you can tell, I'm in school and just grabbing my stuff, but I thought I'd record this lesson so you can watch it today. And if you have any questions, of course, just post them on Teams in our class chat, and I will get back to you, okay? So make sure that you've watched everything from this week. Most of you were in lessons, so have done this material. If you haven't, you must make sure that you go back and look at the lessons from all this week, okay? So yesterday, we were looking at the gradients of straight lines. So remember that gradient just tells us how steep a line is. And we talked about the gradient is equal to the vertical distance. So here's our vertical distance of the straight line divided by the horizontal distance. Here's our horizontal distance. And we said if a line is sloping upwards, like this one, so imagine if you're cycling up this hill, it's going to be sore on the legs because you're cycling up the hill. If it is sloping up, the gradient is positive. However, if it is sloping downwards, the gradient is negative. Okay? But we work it out exactly the same way. So in this case, vertical, which is count of squares, 1, 2 units, divided by 1 unit. So vertical divided by horizontal. And it's sloping down, so it is negative. So what we're going to look at is, well, how do we work out the gradient if we are just given 2 points? Okay, so that's our title today. So finding, try and keep this neat, finding the gradient when given two points on a straight line. So that is what we're looking at. Okay, and let me just so we all know, today is the 19th of March. So what we'll do is we'll do an example, and then we will work through it, and then you can practice some, okay? So let's say find the gradient of the line which passes through the points, and I'm going to label them. So let's say they pass through the points, let's say -1, 2. And let's say also goes through the point 3, 4. So one particular way we could do this is we could, of course, draw it, okay? And we could make our triangle. But the question is, how do we do it if we don't want to draw it, okay? But let's draw it anyway, okay? Let's draw it, oops. Let's draw it and see if we can figure out, using our diagram, how we would work it out if we didn't want to draw it. So I'm going to draw my axes, and then hopefully from our diagram it'll give us a clue how we work out how we go about drawing it. So I'll put in my numbers, so 1, I wanted to use a different color there. Okay, so let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, and of course 0 in the middle. So if I plot my points, now remember which one comes first. Okay, x comes first in the alphabet, so the first number is my x coordinate. So -1 and 2 is my y, so it's going to go through here. And then I've got 3, 4, so it's going to go through 3, 4. So it's going to go through this point. So I can draw my straight line. Now, give me a second while I try and draw this, make it neat. That's not too bad. Okay, so it's going through our 2 points. So we said yesterday and the day before that in order to find out the gradient, we said gradient is equal to vertical distance over horizontal, okay? And we said if we've got the diagram, we can make it into a triangle. So let's make this into a triangle. I'm going to pick this point that we're given. We'll draw across and we make it into a right angle triangle, draw down. Alright, so I've got my vertical distance, I've got my horizontal distance. So this is my vertical. So what is the vertical distance here? Now we have to be slightly careful because we're going up. Every 2 boxes is how many units? Going from 2 to 3, so it's just every 2 boxes is 1 unit. So I'm going 1, 2. So the vertical distance is 2. What about the horizontal distance? So again, every 2 boxes is 1 unit. Okay, I can see every 2 boxes is 1 unit. So starting from here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So my horizontal distance is 4. So I can put this into my formula for my gradient. My gradient is vertical, which is 2, divided by horizontal, which is 4. And if we simplify that, so what number goes into both 2 and 4? 2 does, so 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the gradient is 1/2. And remember, this line is sloping upwards, so it just stays positive. Okay, so the question remains, if I didn't draw the diagram, how would I figure out what the gradient is, okay? How could I just use these numbers to figure out what the gradient is? So let's look at let's label our coordinates here. So we said which one comes first? Our x coordinate, so we'll call this one, let's call it x1, and we'll call this one y1. Okay, and we're calling it x1, y1 because we've got 2 sets, okay? And we'll call this one x2, and we'll call this one y2. So here is your clue, okay? We're looking at our vertical distance first. We're looking at the vertical distance first. Now the vertical distance is to do with which axes, essentially. It's to do with the y-axis, okay? And what did I do to get the value of 2? Well, you could say, yes, I counted up. I counted 1, 2, okay? Remembering every 2 boxes is 1 unit, 1, 2. But what else could I have done? Well, if we look at it, what number do I start at? 4. And we're going from 2. So how did I get the answer of 2 out? Well, you could think I subtracted, I did 4, take away 2. Okay, so I did my y coordinates, I did y2, take away y1. So I take my y coordinates and subtract them. What about my x coordinates? Now this is slightly more difficult to see, but we're going from 3 and we're subtracting off -1. Okay, we're doing 3 and we're subtracting -1. 3 subtract -1. And remember, what's 3 subtract -1? Well, that's the same as 3 plus 1, which is 4, which is where we get the 4 from. So we're doing our x2, take away x1. So this is our formula for our gradient, okay? Yes, it doesn't look particularly very nice, but I'll do an example with you to show you how you go about using it. I'll just go to a blank piece of paper I'll do an example to show how you go about using it. It's easier than it looks, okay? So example, let's say find the gradient of the line through, let's say A is 2, -1, and B, let's say 6, -4. All right, so our first step is we're going to use this formula, okay, for our gradient. Now, before we do that, what we did up here was we labeled our coordinates, x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's do exactly the same thing here. This one is x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we can put our numbers into our formula. So the gradient, so we write down our gradient, and then when you do examples like this, I want you to do exactly the same thing, okay? You label your point, you write down the formula, and then you put the numbers in, okay? So let's see. So the gradient is, okay, so what's our value of y2? Okay, well, that's y1. Okay, our value of y2 is -4. And the formula says we subtract y1. So what's our value of y1? Our value of y1 is -1. All right, what's our value of x2? All right, so we're saying what is the value of x2? So x2 is, yep, this one. So x2 is 6. It's really 6, and we're subtracting from the formula. What's the value of x1? x1 is 2. All right, now remember, you don't have to use a calculator to do these things. You can use, sorry, you don't have to do these things in your head, okay? You can use the calculator. So here's my calculator. I am putting in, let me just move this up a little bit. So -4, so -4 subtract -1. So that's my top line. I don't need to worry about putting the brackets in. That'll do it for me. Now I'm going to hit equals here. So I get -3 on the top. And that's divided by, so we'll do the top. Now, we don't really need a calculator for this, but let's just do it. 6 take away 2. And I get 4. So my answer is just -3/4. Now, if I wanted to do this all in the calculator, I can do it. I need to use brackets this time. I would do -4, take away -1, close my bracket. Going to divide by, so the bottom line, 6 take away 2, close my bracket. Okay, so I need brackets for the top line, brackets for the bottom, equals, and I get -0.75. And we know that -3/4 is the same as -0.75. Okay, so that is our answer. This is our gradient. Okay, -3/4 or -0.75. Either of those is good. What is this telling about this? What is that telling us about this line though? Okay, I'll give you a clue. The gradient is negative. So is the line going to be sloping upwards, or is it going to be sloping downwards? Okay, so remember from yesterday's lesson, we said if it's a negative gradient, it is sloping downwards. So it is not this one. It would be look something like that. Okay. So just to recap, we're finding the gradient of a line through points, 2 different points. You can either do it by drawing it out, which will take a bit of time. Now, it's not a bad idea to do it. The graph paper I've put on Teams, so you can download the graph paper and print it off and draw these if you like. It's good practice too. And you can work it out by doing the triangle. Or you can use the formula, which is probably a little bit easier and quicker, okay? Just remember you're labeling your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then we have our formula, and we're substituting our points into the formula, okay? y2 take away y1, y2 take away y1, divided by x2 divided by x1. And this is the formula you always use for this, okay? And then we use our calculator to figure it out. So what I would like you to have a go at home is the following. So in your book, on page 223, I'll bring it up in a second. So in your book on page 223, I want you to have a go at question 1. Okay, so just question 1. Okay, there's 6 parts. So it's from A all the way to F. Okay, I want you to work out the gradient of the lines on those points. Okay, you use the formula, you write down the points, you label them, and then you put the numbers in. Okay. Now remember, the book is in Teams, and let me just pull up the book so you can see. So here's the questions that we're looking at. It's on page 223, and it is these questions here. Okay, now it says find the equation of the line through the following points. All I want you to do is find the gradient of these lines through these points. So you've got your points, label them, x1, y1, x2, y2, write down your formula and input your numbers, okay? What I want you to do as well is, there's only 6 questions, take a picture of what you've done, and I want you to post it onto the Teams so I can see that you've had a go at it. If you get stuck, please message, okay? I'll be online all day, you can message and I can help. And remember that the book is available on. So here we are on Teams. The book is, if I go to General, Files, and there is a textbook, okay? And there is graph paper that you can use. All right, so any questions, just post them in Math Chat, okay? And I'll put this video in here in Math Video Lessons. Like I said, please ask any questions if you get stuck or if you're not sure, okay? Have a great day, and I will speak to you later. Bye.